Station makes radio.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line through till 1. Well, this morning nurses started a 12-hour walkout as members of the Royal College of Nursing Union on strike over pay and conditions. The first of 3 scheduled days of strike action, further 2 planned for next month. So they're on strike until 8 tonight. Better pay, improved staffing levels. It means a number of health services are being disrupted today. Some are running Christmas Day style schedules while others are suspended entirely. In just a few moments' time, we'll find out exactly what is affected, which services are affected. And if you've got a comment, text, email, call and WhatsApp. The picket line at Nobles Hospital this morning, Manx Radio News' Lewis Foster was speaking to the Royal College of Nursing's operations manager, David Kerwin, about basically how to solve all this.
I'm afraid it's all about pay. You know, it is the crux. Everyone needs a decent pay to pay the bills, and you know, there was a conception that nurses are doing it out of a vocation, and they absolutely are. Nurses really care for their patients, but they also have to pay their bills. And if they can't do that, they're going to go elsewhere and find better pay with less stress elsewhere, and that's what we're finding on the island and all over the country. So we just need better pay. We need the trust to come and speak to us. We need the government to speak to talk to us. We just want a decent pay settlement from 2021 to the present day. That is what is going to make the retention sort of improve and get new staff onto the wards. We have a huge amount of vacancies. Manx Care won't actually reveal how many vacancies we've got, but we know it's a huge amount. And we just need to have safe and effective care in the hospitals. And comments yesterday that today's action is going to be unsafe really weren't helpful, because actually what is unsafe is the care every single day. We have put a lot of effort in today to make sure that wards are appropriately staffed, and in fact maybe we'll be staffed higher levels than most other days. This time next week, when there isn't industrial action going on, you may find that wards are severely understaffed with no solution, huge amounts of agency staff being paid at huge cost, when actually if we just use that money to pay our existing substantive staff a decent wage, then it would be resolved really quickly.
And there is more action planned next month. What would it take to see that action called off?
Yes, there's 2 days of action planned for next month, and what would see that being called off is a real proper conversation with a solution at the end of it. We've been met with a brick wall so far, and I really do feel that the plan is that the government hopes that they will almost like starve nurses back into work, by them losing so much money through industrial action that they won't be able to afford to continue. I can tell you, after speaking to nurses over the last couple of days, that's not going to happen. Nurses are absolutely committed, and they're committed because if we don't do this, patients are going to be put at risk every day.
That's David Kerwin from the Royal College of Nursing Union speaking to Lewis Foster this morning. Lewis is with me in the studio now. Hi Lewis, what was the mood like down there?
Quite a few nurses down there this morning, roughly around 40 or so there on either side of the gates outside of Nobles Hospital, and on the roundabouts as well, that quite a few people would have seen if they were driving around that area this morning. More expected to come and join later in the day as well. There's a real sense of comradeship, I think, amongst the nurses down there, and I spoke to quite a few of them about what it is that is the crux for them. We heard from the RCN operations manager there saying the crux was pay, and for the nurses I spoke to as well, they were saying it really is about the stress that they're feeling around staffing levels, and their argument saying you don't get new staff coming over and staying here without an attractive pay packet. And then, of course, on the flip side of that, we've got Manx Care saying negotiations are at a deadlock, there's no funding available. So, a lot of confusion, I suppose, about what actually happens next.
It was interesting that David Kerwin talked about the government. Now, obviously, the Royal College of Nursing is a UK union as well, and in the UK, it's not relevant here, but in the UK, they talk to the government there. Here it's Manx Care. So are Manx Care, if you like, piggy in the middle between the government and the nurses? Are Manx Care in charge? Who's in charge of this pay settlement?
Well, that's the interesting question. There has been suggestions about this independent arbitration, about getting somebody else involved to look at both sides of the argument and
that's
say...
what Paul Moore mentioned, binding arbitration.
Yeah, that's it, and essentially saying you have to agree to these terms, no if no buts. And the RCN, I did ask David Kerwin there, and he said the RCN wouldn't say no, but really would prefer what they call a real negotiation, and not getting into something with what he described as a preconceived outcome.
And this is where the public, the person on the street kind of scratches their head and just says, well, look, this has been going on forever. I mean, it's gone on longer than COVID, almost as long as the Liverpool landing stage. When's this going to be resolved?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And I asked him there about the strike action plan next month, and he was really saying, if we do get around the table, there is a chance that could be called off. But like I say, we're at this deadlock, so we're looking at where we're at now, and the RCN, like we mentioned before, says it's campaigning to rectify years of real terms pay cuts that it claims are pushing people out of the profession, putting patient safety at risk. Members were balloted back in June about whether they would be willing to breach their employment contracts by going on strike. We saw that first action on the 25th of July, this today, of course, following what was described as failed pay negotiations. So we are where we are.
So, what impact is this having on the Isle of Man services today? What's being affected? I'm
sure quite a few listeners probably will be aware themselves. Most outpatient services are closed today. There is the inpatient services at Nobles Hospital and Ramsey and District Cottage Hospital. The emergency department at Nobles is open. The Jane Crookall Maternity Unit, inpatient mental health services at Mannin Court and mental health crisis team, and some community-based dialysis services and critical care provision, alongside maintenance of chemotherapy provision and emergency/trauma surgery. We heard from Teresa Cope before saying that those decisions to cancel appointments, etc., weren't taken lightly, and they have been working around the workforce they have available to make sure it's safe and effective today.
We heard the term agency staff being used. Often it's bandied around. Agency staff presumably are brought in when there's not enough staff available. People actually were on salary, and it costs an awful lot more, sometimes twice as much, to employ an agency worker. We got the situation also where Manx Care brought in synaptics to clear the backlog of operations. They're doing a great job, but you just wonder where this is going to go. Who's going to have? It's almost like you've got DHSC in one corner, the nurses in another corner, Manx Care in another corner, and Treasury sitting it out. This will obviously be solved with more money, but it's got to come from somewhere.
And where does it come from? That's the big thing, and we have we'll hear more on the economic strategy as well. We spoke with the Enterprise Minister. You'll know about the government conference, of course, next week. That's all about expanding and growing the island's working population. And I suppose it's one of those situations today you kind of stand back and see the situation we're in as a big hurdle to those plans. So it'll be really interesting to see how it's resolved.
Okay, and what will you take away from your conversations with the nurses this morning? What sticks out?
Oh, definitely, it's the staffing for them. Like I say, we heard from the RCN saying pay is the big crux, but there are those nurses that are here and they're here to stay, definitely, and they just want to, I think, have their stress relieved somehow.
It's staffing levels then, as far as more than money, would you say?
for them, absolutely, but pay seems to be the way they see as the out.
And as has been stressed many times, and it's worth revisiting, being a nurse is, it's a stressful job. You're dealing with people's lives, people's health. It's not something that you go into lightly. For many people, it's a vocation, a lifelong vocation. So the depth of feeling there, how would you gauge it?
Oh, it's massive. And even the conversations I was having off mic, there was some nurses there getting, you could tell, quite emotional about the fact that they were there on the picket line as well. And every single one of them said it's about patient care. It's about patient care. They want to be able to provide a good level of care for the patients, which they fear may not be possible with the state of things as they are.
Okay, great job, Lewis. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear from you. Lewis Foster from Manx Radio News, who was on the picket line this morning, and that's the situation. The outpatient services closed. Most of them are closed. Inpatient services at Nobles and Ramsey Cottage Hospital open. Emergency department at Nobles is open. The Jane Crookall maternity unit is open if you're about to give birth. Inpatient mental health services at Mannin Court and mental health crisis team are there. Some community-based dialysis services and critical care provision alongside maintenance of chemo provision and emergency and trauma surgery. So 18th and 19th of October. So if you've got any thoughts on this, by all means, please call 66 13 68. Text, email and WhatsApp. Text 166 177. And you can WhatsApp 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com is a note in. Just says, if we're wasting £40 million on wind farms, how about here and now? Why don't we reduce wastage and pay the nurses a living wage? It'd be interesting to see if you could transfer one budget to another. I doubt if you could, but we see the point. There's a shortage of staff in all sectors. Everybody's having to work more and more hours. And this WhatsApper 927, anonymous WhatsApper, I think the nurses need to get over it. Yeah, and then what? If we lose nurses, what exactly happens? If the nursing staff goes down, what do we do? People are always retiring, and we have to get new nurses. We don't train that many over here, so we have to bring nurses from across. They have to live somewhere. Now, time was when there was a nurses' home. At the moment, not as big, let's put it that way. Right, by all means, get in touch, and lots more on the schedule today, including, I've had more messages about that famous lamppost in Ramsey, but there we are. Also, there's a Ramsey Commissioner, Jim McGuinness, says that car waiting charges at Ronaldsway are affecting people in the north who often have to leave before the planes departed, get to Ronaldsway, and it's either been turned back or it's late or it's not happening, and they're having to park over there as well. And also, something that we didn't have time to get to yesterday, the American Bully XLs. Calls in the UK for American Bully XLs to be banned. The UK Home Secretary said that they pose a clear danger to communities. 4 dog breeds are currently banned across, rules which apply to the Isle of Man. But many people are saying it's irresponsible breeders and owners, and they should be held accountable, not the pets themselves. If you've got any thoughts on that, maybe if you've got a bull terrier yourself or one of those XL ones, then it'd be interesting to hear from you. By all means, do get in touch. John's with us now. Hi, John.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah.
You just recently read out my text, the first bit about not wasting 14 million on wind turbines. But unfortunately, you left out a bit there about paying MHK's minimum wage.
And what's your point?
Well, if we paid the minimum wage, then there'd be more money to go around to nurses.
And you think politicians would work for minimum wage?
Well, they're not actually doing the job we're asking them to do.
Well,
And
once
what would
upon
it
a
come-
time, we didn't pay MHKs, and only rich people, it was rich men in those days, MHKs didn't get paid, and it was only people in business who could afford to become, if you like, full-time politicians. So the decision was taken to pay politicians so people who needed a wage, people who didn't have private means, could become politicians. The thought was originally, if only rich men could afford to be politicians, that that they would give a certain view of the world. So how would that work out if we only paid people minimum wage to become politicians?
Well, on the flip side of it, if you think about that argument, then the other side is, well, you're paying people to become politicians. They don't actually do the job we're asking them to do. So, we need somewhere in between, which I think would be minimum wage, because if politicians can turn around and say, well, that's a fair wage for people to earn, then why don't they earn it? It's a bit hypocritical to sit there and say, well, I can earn an awful lot of money than you can.
But a lot of our politicians earn a lot less than the civil servants who work for them. The head civil servants earn well into six figures, and politicians don't. Politicians get, £60,000 or £70,000 a year.
Okay, so who then agreed to pay the civil servants that wage?
There's a civil service. There's a protocol established for civil service pay. It's called the civil service spine, and the politicians are anchored to that. So,
yeah. So at the same time, as people, me being people, when we disagree with it and we say, right, politicians, we want you to do our bidding, and they don't, then they're not working for us, are they?
So, in particular, what would you like them to do?
Well, there's a whole host of things, and to be honest, I think the population on the island is a bit fed up with the government at the moment. Well, no, not at the moment, for the last maybe 10 years. And the whole point of government is to do the bidding of the people, but they're not. They're telling the people what to do. I had a discussion with an MHK not so long ago, and I asked him the question. I said, what is the purpose of government? And he turned around and said, to protect the people. The purpose of government is not to protect the people. The purpose of government is to administer the realm as to the wishes of the people. So if they're not doing the job, then either they should be fired or get paid minimum wage. That's how I see it.
Oh, right. Well, there is an election in 2 years' time. Well, 3 years' time.
Yeah, but unfortunately, what do we do between now and then?
We have to put up with what they do.
Well, that's where the problem lies. If you were working for a company or something like that, you would probably end up being fired for gross misconduct or something along those lines.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll take your point, John. All right, thanks for calling today.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right, good to hear from you. Instead of spending £80 million in Liverpool, why don't they just give everybody £1 million each? Then the nurses and everybody might be happy. They might be, but we just wouldn't have anywhere to put the boat in Liverpool if we didn't have... after seeing the horrific attack by the bully XL, that young girl was lucky to escape with her life. The dog then went on to attack two other people, pulling them to the ground. It's the breed of dog that kills, not the owners. The breed should be banned. Says Dewan. I just wonder what your thoughts are regarding this. This is the banning of dogs, and this is the XL bully, the American bully XL. Now, on the Isle of Man, there's a thing called Animals in Distress Isle of Man, and Anita Williams is the animal psychologist at Animals in Distress Isle of Man.
The percentage of the Manx dog owners on this island are fantastic compared to the UK, majorly fantastic. You do have a percentage. I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, we rescued 3 XL bullies from a house that the police had asked us to take away, and they belonged to a lad that ended up in prison for drug use, and he kept them in his home because he was a supplier. Those dogs were the most sweetest, gentlest animals you could ever meet. They didn't have a bad bone in their body. We handled them. They lived with us. We had them to the vets for all the problems that they had due to his neglect of them. But other than that, he just neglected them. But he didn't have the sense to know what to do with these dogs, or cage them in his kitchen, living in 2 inches of feces and covered in urine, and he just kept him in there to stop people coming in and taking his drugs. Again, it's not the breed, it's the specific owner and dog, and that's what everyone agrees with. It's the owner. I would never let my Albert out in the public. I'd never take him to the beach. I'd never take him anywhere. He goes to an enclosed field where no one else is allowed to go in there, bar me and him. That is me protecting him.
If anyone on the Isle of Man wanted an XL bully of their own, what would your advice be?
Get a pup from a proper breeder, a breeder that is registered, or someone that is extremely knowledgeable on the breed. I would never suggest, unless they came through us or through the MSPCA or a fully fledged trainer on this island, to take in a bully dog that has been passed about, because you never know what the background is. We know every one of our dogs' backgrounds, and we would never rehome any of our dogs with families unless they've had that full assessment.
Any thoughts on this matter? Text 166 email studio@manxradio.com. WhatsApp, same text number, 166 call 66 1368. There was a message in from Wayne in Ballasalla who said, "You didn't ask Alex Allenson my question. Sorry, Wayne, we didn't get to it, but I've got an answer for you." Wayne's question was the Sefton Hotel's government loan ever paid back? It was 4 years ago. The Treasury Minister confirmed the Sefton Group's fully repaid its government loan. The funds were due to be repaid by, I think it was April 2018. But at the time, the Treasury Minister, then Mr. Cannon, now Chief Minister, of course, gave them a 12-month extension. They paid the loan back. He told Timwell then in May 2019, a payment of just over £1.3 million was made on the 3rd of May 2019, cleared the debt. So earlier that month, the organisation informed shareholders it had agreed a deal to sell the Sefton Hotel for £7.6 million. It's under new ownership now. But that was what. There was also a separate visitor facility improvement grant awarded to the Sefton at the time. Remember, this is all 4 years ago. We're just filling in the gaps here. The Enterprise Minister then, Lawrence Kelly, confirmed that some £392,000 was given to the Sefton to turn 2 guest houses into 9 suites, 2 of which have been sold off. As a result, as part of the grant, had now been repaid the Department of Enterprise, while a £304,845 liability was transferred to the hotel's new owners, Douglas Hotel Holdings Limited, for the suites that were used as tourist accommodation. So there you go, Wayne. That's the answer. Yes, the government did get its money back from the Sefton Group in 2019, and the hotel was sold, of course, for £7.6 million. And Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just going back to, what do we do? Yesterday, it was on your news that the annual airport parking income falls by £130,000.
Yes, 130 grand it's gone down.
Yeah, but they're also saying at the bottom line that the parking at Ronaldsway is increasing. So what are they paying this company, Ringo, who you have to either have an app or, as I was doing when we were going away, just go into the information desk there, and the lady or whoever's on the desk will pay the you pay the charges by card, and she gives you a receipt. But that charge, there's £130,000. Is that part of the charges that's been used to pay this company? If so, that's £130,000 that could have put new barriers up over the period and had the full amount coming back into the kitty. Is it another foolish move by the airport authorities? Ringo and others, they're getting bad press across. And in lots of cases, there are a lot of companies coming in of a similar nature. So you've got to have about 5 or 6 apps on your phone now just to drive around different parts of the UK.
Well, this will now fall into, obviously, Mr. Crookall's going to be having to look at this. And it was said at the... And, of course, we don't know. There's an old thing, old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, well, obviously, I mean, during COVID, it was free to park, wasn't it? Everybody was parking there free for ages.
There is still a small section of free disc parking. It's only, I think it's half an hour now. It used to be an hour. But that is down where you drive in and is near the airport building itself. It is only small, limited, but it's there. There's still free parking, as a sense. And there's no barriers there on the what do you call it? Entrance to the park. Yeah. But you have to use your app to pay. And if you haven't got the app, then a lot of people say, well, what do I do? Plus the fact that the long stay car park or the other one, they're now premium parking or ordinary parking.
And what do you do if you haven't got the app, Howard?
Well, I didn't have the app, and I still don't, and I won't. I was going into the reception, the information desk, and as I say, whoever's on the desk there has the ability to take a card payment off you. If you, this is when I was going away with my wife to Aintree Hospital, and I would go down in the morning, and you could book 16 hours, I think it was. I can't remember. But it was £10 then. It's 11 now. But I used to get the receipt off the lady there, and that was then registered. But how much of that £10 or whatever it was went to that company, Ringo? So in other words, the funds is coming into the airport are being depleted by that. £130,000 possibly. And that's an annual thing. So you're not long running up a serious amount of money, which could have put some Rolls-Royce barriers in and kept all the money themselves.
You would have thought. OK, Howard, thanks for that.
OK, take care.
Good to hear from you. 27 minutes to 1. This is a story about the income at the airport car parks down £130,000 than what it was prior to COVID. Issues with the barriers at the car parks, along with travel restrictions during COVID, impacted the airport's revenue between March 2020 and May of last year, when the DOI introduced this app, Ringo. Between May and the end of 2022, £297,866 was spent on parking charges at the site, £363,871 paid so far this year to the end of August. For the 12-month period from September last year to August 2023, passengers spent £552,060.40p. For the same months in 2018 and 2019, the figure was £682,413. Statistics previously released by the department for that period prior to COVID show the car park raised more than £600,000 per year between 2017 and 2019. Meanwhile, the number of people parking at the airport has grown compared to last year. Between June and August last year, 4,824 parking sessions were booked at Ronaldsway, increasing to 6,494 over the same 3-month period this year. And a total of 2,070 parking penalty notices have been issued since May 2022. It will be interesting to know just how much we're paying Ringo to park at our airport.
The only thing worse than the agony of toothache is the agony of waiting days to get it treated. Not anymore. Tracy Bell in Douglas and Castletown offers same-day or next-day emergency appointments from £95, whether you're registered with us or not. Toothache, broken teeth, fractured dentures, 7 days a week, Tracy Bell's dentist can help you. For emergency appointments, call 613323 or 494 327 out of hours, and we'll take the pain away.
This old house needed new windows. This old house needed a new door. And with DPM Conservatories, we got all that and more. Now our bills are lower and the house is warmer too. We're cleaner and we're greener since we swapped our old for new. Stunning A+ rated replacement windows and doors, expertly fitted by DPM Conservatories. Phone 612 333 or find them on Facebook and swap your old for new.
Q Plus is much more than a plumbing and heating trade counter. Come and explore the largest bathroom showroom on the island, where we're always updating our displays and stocking the latest bathroom designs and trends to make sure we have just what you're looking for. Visit Q Plus on Snugborough Trading Estate or find us on Facebook to see some fabulous bathroom inspiration. QPlus.co.il.
Bringing you the best of the island's produce. Don't miss the Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival, celebrating its 15th anniversary. This year's Food and Drink Festival promises to be bigger and better than ever, with new producers on display and an exciting new space to discover locally produced drinks. It's on Saturday and Sunday, the 16th and 17th of September at the Villa Gardens, Douglas. For more information, visit iomfoodanddrink.com. The Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival, celebrating the very best of Manx produce.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
To celebrate the massive September sale at B&B Furniture, you can win an incredible £200 voucher to spend on anything in store.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win. You can enter as many times as you like.
Then make sure you're listening to Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning and we'll announce the winner.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
23 minutes now before 1. Thanks for stopping by. Lots of messages to get to. First of all, Juan's on. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
I'm very happy. Actually, it's dry.
Great.
That's a good thing. It was very wet, wasn't it, yesterday?
Yes. Well, we're getting to that time of year now, aren't we? We're getting the autumnal feel in the air. Yeah, I was. I've missed the last couple of Mannin Line, so I'll catch up on them in the next couple of days on what Alex said yesterday, etc. But talking to quite a few people in Manx Care over the last week, and an interesting conversation with a nurse last night. There seems to be an in-depth problem here at the moment with Manx Care, and a lot of it seems to be the multiple layers of management within Manx Care. You've got nurses there on the front line who are really good nurses, and they're getting paid less than cleaners at some stages. I think during the last bank holiday, I believe, there was an absolute mountain of laundry built up at the hospital, which was in a terrible state, been left for 4 days because there's no staff. So there's something wrong in the system here. We've got management getting massive amounts of money. We've got people on agency fees, which is costing the ratepayers a massive amount of money again. And a lot of these people have no vested interest in the island. They come here, they earn a lot of money, and they go again. So we're not getting people who are invested in the good of the Isle of Man. They're just coming here, taking large amounts of money and going. So they've definitely got a deep problem within Manx Care.
But you have to ask yourself then, and let's talk about nurses then, because our retention of nurses is nothing like it should be. So we often bring nurses to the Isle of Man. They come on special financial packages to come to the Isle of Man. And, it's typical if people come to the Isle of Man, within 2 years they know whether or not they're going to like it or not, if they don't get rock fever. And they'll either go or they'll stay. But what can we do to make sure that our medical professionals who come to the Isle of Man to take up posts actually stay? It can't just be about money, June.
Well, I'm also hearing as well that people do not want to work for Manx Care. They don't want to sign contracts. And there's something amiss, Andy. I'm digging into it a little bit because I like digging into it. We've got people here who are coming on 6-month contracts. They can't even get a contract to stay in accommodation. They're getting moved from pillar to post from week to week because they can't. Manx Care won't even give them long contracts to stay here. So there's something not connecting here somewhere. And at the end of the day, it's the people of the island that suffer. And I've got family now that they are waiting for serious things to get done. They've been cancelled going to the hospital today. So it's at the end of the day, the people are suffering here, and there's something amiss I say we've got masses of management involved in Manx Care, and the people on the ground are not getting looked after. So I don't know what the answer is, but there's a problem.
But the answer seems to be, I mean, if you hear Lewis, spoke to the nurses this morning, and he said, it's staffing levels. That's important. Money's important, but staffing levels are the things that stress nurses out. The unions say it's about money and the packages. You've got Manx Care, standing with their arms closed, and DHSC looking at everybody sideways, and Treasury with their hands on the till. So somewhere, something has got to happen, because the health service on the Isle of Man is not a job creation scheme. It's there to care for the people of the Isle of Man.
It is, and I mean, it's not just here. I mean, the National Health Service in England is absolutely, it's teetering. Some people would say that it's not going to survive. It's teetering. And like any kind of, a basic business at the end of the day, if there's more going out than what's coming in, it ain't going to survive. That's just the pure business ethics of it.
Well, interestingly, when Kerry Sharp was on a couple of weeks ago talking about children in care, obviously that's administered by social workers are hired by Manx Care, and we can't get social workers. We have to bring agency social workers in, again, costing an absolute fortune. And sometimes agency social workers that have no ties to the Isle of Man, and as you say, stay 6 months and then go, which is no good for the children who are in care that they're looking after as well. So it would seem there's something of a parallel.
And you've got two cities in England now going into bankruptcy, Birmingham and Brixton, and these cities are paying fortunes to these agencies. These agencies are making fortunes. So there's a disconnect. There's a big disconnect. I don't know. I've got some questions for the conference next week, and again, I really do hope that people go down to this conference and actually say their piece and say things. That wasn't the main thing I came on about today, though, Andy. I wanted to congratulate Linda and the team down at the Manx Legion Club for not being coerced into not putting the Katie Hopkins show on last night in their venue. It was a sold-out show, and Katie is Marmite. You either like her or you hate her. But it was a sold-out show. It was a good show. And despite the coercement of two councillors, predominantly, the show went on. And that's freedom of speech. Like it, don't like it, don't go. That's freedom of speech. And for councillors to actually try and coerce a business saying that they are in council properties to stop it, I think is wrong. And also, congratulations to whoever it was behind the two charities who pulled their buckets from the collection last night. Well, that was clever, because you had a full house there, which would have raised some money for local charities. So that was clever, and congratulations to the protester who managed to get into the room. Gives an extra bit of free entertainment for the night for 20 quid. So congratulations to him as well. And you know what? Let free speech reign, because, whatever you think about the woman, she's travelling around the whole of England and she's seeing what's going on and the madness and the craziness that we're seeing. And there was 200-odd people in there last night. Business people, nurses, ordinary people in the street, all aligned in the way of thinking. So let free speech carry on, Andy.
So did the two councillors, were they named officially? Which councillors wanted it stopped?
If we want to put them there. It's all over the social media anyway. So we've got Andrew Bentley and we've got Devon Watson. Well, Devon Watson's been aligned for saying some stupid things over since he's been in council. So, perhaps it was going against his views of the brave new world that we're going to be facing. But, they shouldn't be saying things like that as councillors. Again, like our ministers, they're elected to look after the people of the island. What right have they got to try and stop a thing like that going on? And like I say, fair play to Linda and the team for letting it go on.
Okay, all right, thanks, Stuart.
Take care, Andy.
1:45 on Manx Radio.
Welcome to the Ramsey Park Hotel, where there's always a warm welcome and something to enjoy. Nestling beside Muirrook Lake with sea views towards Cumbria, the Ramsay Park Hotel is a stunning destination for your staycation. Take advantage of a fabulous 2-night stay with a glass of champagne on arrival, dinner for 2 nights accommodation and breakfast, all for just £290. For more news on food, offers and events, call 818-123 or visit the Ramsay Park Hotel on Facebook.
Grill, bake, steam, boil, stir fry, simmer, fry, roast, slow cook, griddle, toast. An Aga can do it all. An Aga isn't just an amazing cooker, it's a way of life. Aga specialist Haldane Fisher can recommend an Aga for every home. Call in store and discover the range and join thousands of owners who love coming home to Aga's warmth, style and practicality. Haldane Fisher for Aga, home to great cooking.
No matter how much you need to dig or how much you want to dump, Fox Group Isle of Man offer an extensive range of plant hire, long-term lease and sales. We're the island's exclusive supplier for Louis Gong excavators with immediate delivery. Our machinery comes with a complete service package with finance plan options. Call John on 458946 to discuss your plant needs. Fox Group Isle of Man, part of the Fox Group of companies.
TGI Fridays, Harry Ramsden's, Greg's, Chiquito. They're each loved for food and enjoyment. And now they've all teamed up with Iceland to bring their famous food direct to you. Piccolino, My Protein and many more, all in one place. Shop right, so anytime you're craving for what makes them famous, we can help. No defrost, no prep, no waste. Straight from the freezer into the oven. And all at great prices. New exclusive brands. Only at ShopRite. Proudly locally owned.
I'm Mike Buttle. Join me tonight on Manx Radio at 6 for a second series of journeys on our fantastic heritage railways. This time it's the wonderful Manx Electric Railway. In tonight's final episode, I'll be looking at an almost secret rail service that takes place occasionally on Snaefell Mountain. I'll relive the fabulous steam on the electric events of the 1990s with 2 of the people who helped make them happen. And find out how the mail used to arrive in Ramsay by tram via the postal service on the electric railway that continued from the 1890s through until the 1970s. That's tonight at 6 on Manx Radio, or listen online at manxradio.com, where the whole series is available as a podcast.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good to hear from you. John dropped a note in on 404. Nurses should work to 66, not 55, like joiners and bricklayers who work till 66, and anyone else in the private sector. Lots have stressful jobs. Think about how many more nurses will be working if they didn't retire at 55, instead of going on the bank at 55, getting a pension and getting paid a fortune as a bank nurse. Perhaps, says G, we should build some nurse accommodation and not wind farms. Provide free accommodation to nurses who sign up for 3 years, or give tax breaks to medical staff. Manx Care needs an overhaul, says Texter 030. It's understaffed and overworked staff. Nobody's interested in working for the healthcare sector. That's reflected in the lack of job applications and increased jobs on offer. Is it true that a newly qualified local nurse aren't guaranteed a job by Manx Care when they leave college, says Steve? And nurses' pay, starting at $29,543 a year, is twice as much as myself and others get. I managed to live without using food banks. Why can't they live on what's the best part of £30,000? Here's Vivian now. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, Andy. I think the biggest thing that's wrong with the health services and everything to do with it is Manx Care. I don't know why they were ever brought in, and they haven't done very much since they've been in. And, everywhere is in it's a disaster.
So, but I mean, it was the government's choice. They had this Jonathan Michaels report that said, bring in Manx Care.
I don't care.
Yeah, but they wanted to separate it, the running of the health service, away from politicians. They didn't want politicians, meddling from day to day in the health service.
Well, then bring somebody in, but not somebody from England. Surely we've got qualified people on the island that can sort out the financial side of it. We have enough accountants and all, and somebody that knows a bit about the health services.
Vivian, do you think the nurses should get more money?
can I stay on that? Because I was once involved in the nursing profession when I was very young. And if they had to live on what we lived, which was £8 a month, that's how long ago it was, they wouldn't have done it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that.
Bye.
Cheers now. If the airport had ANPR barriers like the corporation used, they wouldn't need an app or have to pay monies off the island, would they? Said Andy. ANPR is automatic number plate recognition, these cameras that can recognise your... so maybe that's the way to do it. We don't really know how much they're paying this app company, do we, Ringo? But one thing that did come up, do you remember during COVID when the barriers weren't working, so they took the barriers down? Apparently, we got indoor barriers outdoors at the airport. They worked for years, didn't they? The RCN, this is the union, say healthcare is unsafe. So how many reports have been made, and why hasn't the hospital announced days of Opal Level 1, says G. Breeders of XL bullies want to just make money. These are terriers, the one that there was a problem with in the UK. So the breeders of these XL bullies want to just make money. They don't care about anything else. They're not a breed. They're a mix of pit bull, American bulldog and English bulldog, so therefore there are no registered breeders. They're bred by idiots, the words of 287, who want to powerhouse dogs, bigger, nastier looking, probably nasty temperament. You can't expect a collie to walk through a field of sheep and not react, so why expect a breed bred to bite and hold on, not react to people? And you heard the lady who was with the charity talking about the fact that there was a drug dealer that had got a couple of these dogs, and... so where does the line draw, really? Do you blame the dogs? You can't blame the dogs personally, but I mean, the dogs are born into what they are, and if that sort of dog is going to be a danger to people, what do it? When will the assisted dying bill be voted for on the next Tynwald? People are going to be suffering terribly while we wait, says 917. Well, it is in the next Tynwald, which is not that far away, and of course we will be reporting live from Tynwald. The woman on now was just talking about XL bullies, stated that her own are never allowed in public or on a beach, but only in a secure field. If this dog... If this dog is never allowed to socialise, is that not animal cruelty, says Tony C. Did you get a response from the Minister regarding the means test thresholds for child benefits? Nick at the sweet shop in Castletown. We didn't, but we'll pass that through. How many people have to die before these dogs are deemed unsafe to be a suitable pet for average people, says John. Well, we haven't had any problems over here yet, so we'll see. I hope Katie Hopkins comes back. If I could have got a ticket, I would have gone, says Martin. The Manxman has to leave Douglas Harbour last night due to its line snapping in the wind. Is that true? That's why it was late leaving. Didn't think it was that windy, to be fair, says Jack. And a message in also from Freddie, who just says, why is the Manxman blowing her siren or her horn every morning? Do they have to be trained to sound the horn? I live near South Quay. I'm sick and tired of that happening all the time. The Jonathan Michael report, says Mark, was a fait accompli. A blind man on a horse could see this venture was always going to fail, says Mark. So you wonder, Mark, why it was why it was brought up then. If it was set to fail, why possibly, did the government bring it in? We are where we are with Manx Care. It's been given the job to do. At the moment, it's underfunded because they keep having to go back and ask for money. So, where do we go? Well, of course, the answer is more money. Everybody wants more money. Some people say they need more money. But as the Treasury Minister said the other day, £100 million in tax revenues comes from £1 billion that's been earned. Somebody has to earn the money to pay the tax, to pay for public spending. Can you find a way out of it? XL bully ownership is selfish. Even the lady campaigning for them admits they can't be trusted in public. It's not fair on the dog. It's not fair on the people around you. things ran much better and happier without Manx care. Is that true? Were there never any problems with the health service before? Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Just a quickie. Just quickly, I totally agree with Ewan. I think the Douglas councillors would be better off focusing on the bins rather than squishing our freedom of speech. Ringo, the parking system at the airport, Ringo was part of the Park Now group, but it was owned by BMW Daimler until 2021. Now, the Park Now group that has Ringo is owned by the Vitruvian Partners, a pan-European private equity company with around $8 billion in assets. And there are widespread reports that the commission that they're charging to get their shareholders happy has shot up. So that may well be why there are more people parking at the airport, but we're going into loss. So if you go for one of the smart parking meters that can do card and cash, they're about $6,000 each, plus a bit of installation. So if you're losing 140,000 going with this app, I would suggest we go back to cash machines and card, because I think we'll save a fortune compared to paying Ringo's Vitruvian shareholders much more.
Okay, all right, Julian, thanks for that. Airport parking woes and much more. Oh, by the way, if you want help to get online for your tax return, there's a session today from 2 till 4 in the C terminal at the Get Online Centre. Just go through the main door. It's sharp left and it's there. It's absolutely free. You can book a 30-minute slot by calling 685-224. It's on today from 2 till 4. Do your tax online. And other happy subjects. Thanks to Ben Hartley on the phones today. Back tomorrow.
WINT